Hello, my name is Kyle, and this is my TOK presentation. In case you couldn't figure out from the intro, it is about zombies. The title of my presentation is Do Zombies Walk Amongst Us, or The Problem of Other Minds? Now, when philosophers discuss zombies, and they do, they aren't really talking about horror film zombies such as the gun-toting, saluting zombie Bub in George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. Zombies, as discussed in philosophy, are not really like the ghoulish, brain-munching zombies that we see in Romero flicks. To help you understand, I'm going to read a quote from philosopher Larry Hauser on the matter. Zombies in philosophy are more akin to the wives in Stepford Wives than to the brain-munching ghouls of Night of the Living Dead. Still, with Stepford Wives, there's something discernibly, albeit subtly, amiss. Now, that quote is good and all if you've seen the movie. If you haven't, at least in the original, the wives of this town called Stepford are all replaced with robotic doubles of themselves. And they look the same, and they talk the same, and they sort of act the same, but the only difference was that they seem to be more empty. Now, mind you, the wives in Stepford Wives are sort of like an exaggerated version of the philosophical zombie, but they still help you understand. Now, if you tried to have a conversation with one of these females, you would notice that you wouldn't really be able to make any kind of a connection with them. You could talk to them and they'd respond, but it wouldn't be very deep. And they all sort of had this like drone-ish quality about them, where they were really only concerned with clean house, make food for husband. And so you sort of get the idea that with a philosophical zombie, by looking at them and talking to them, you can't tell they're not human, and yet they seem to be missing some sort of core human quality about them. So, unlike the bloodthirsty, brain-munching monsters we get from Romero flicks, philosophical zombies look and act just like everyone else. The only difference is, there's nothing going on up here. Philosophical zombies are lacking minds. Pop quiz. We'll see if you've been paying attention. The only difference between a human and a philosophical zombie is humans got a brain, philosophical zombie doesn't, right? Wrong. I said philosophical zombies don't have a mind. There's a difference. Try to keep up. So, what this means is, from now on, I'll have to focus a lot less on things like this. Bang. And instead, I'll have to talk about stuff like this. Okay, so, big deal. Philosophical zombies, or P-zombies, don't have a mind. But what does that even mean? Well, what it means is, while they appear to be normal humans, they're actually lacking everything that makes up the human experience. They don't experience pain, sensation, consciousness, sapience, or sentience. However, the scary part is, they'll act like they do. If you kick one in the shin, it'll yell. If you talk to one, it'll respond. Basically, a P-zombie will not have any reason to produce these reactions, however, it will, just to appear as a normal human. So, overall, the concept of a P-zombie is, it's a difficult one for people to understand because generally they'll say things like, well, how can it appear to be a human and do things like speak and answer questions and all that kind of thing, and yet not have a mind? How, like, that can't be possible. Well, the best way to explain it is to relate them to robots and computers. If you know anything about computers, then basically what they do is they take input and they produce output. So, that's pretty much how all computers work. Uh, Now we have things like humanoid robots and androids, and they they have the ability to speak. There's a lot of new technology that you can actually speak to these robots, and they will respond to you based on what you say. They can ask questions, and you can answer, and they'll comprehend, but they're not really comprehending. They are giving the illusion of comprehension, because obviously we know that robots can't think, and computers can't actually think. They don't have minds. But based on how they've been programmed to take audio, visual, and other forms of input and generate an output, they can certainly present the illusion of a mind. And okay, so at this point, you may be wondering where I'm going with this and what this has to do with philosophy. Fair point. But it actually has more to do with philosophy than you may think. Now, if you've ever studied philosophy, chances are you've seen this Latin phrase, which translates to this English phrase, I think, therefore I am. It was coined by the French philosopher René Descartes when he was trying to figure out what was 100% real and true and what wasn't. He decided that the only thing he could, with absolute certainty, say was completely true and real was himself. He decided that because he was thinking about it, and therefore he was thinking, that he must exist. There's a reason that he didn't say, I think, therefore you exist. And there's a reason that the only thing he decided could 100% exist was himself, and that's because you really can only ever see your own mind. To assume that everyone else has a mind is actually very irrational when you think about it, because you're applying one case to billions of others. So that's like finding an oyster with a pearl and assuming all oysters have pearls, when in fact it's very rare for oysters to have pearls at all, and therefore it could be very rare for humans to have a mind, or perhaps I'm the only human that even has a mind at all. Damn it, just because I made the analogy now, and it's my presentation, and I can do these things, I am now going to use the word mind and pearl synonymously and interchangeably. So, to keep you on your toes. Okay, so what impact does this have on my life, you might ask? Well, imagine you found out, somehow, that you were the only human on Earth who was, well, a human. Now, wouldn't that pretty much make every law that was created by a P-zombie anyways completely arbitrary? Would you bother following them? Would you have any problems about killing someone who never really existed in the first place? Knowing that what we do affects others who exist keeps us morally responsible. One of the reasons we follow laws is because, well, someone tells us we have to. Well, imagine if that person wasn't even real. Would you listen to them? Probably not. A flip side to this would be, well, imagine you found out, once again, you're the only person that exists. Wouldn't you become very lonely? You're the only person who has any real experiences. Any connections you've ever built with anyone, all your friends, family, loved ones, they're not even real. They don't feel anything towards you. They can't. They don't feel anything at all. Wouldn't that make you incredibly depressed, very lonesome, very solitary? But you've heard enough from me, so let's see what you guys think.